It was an accident, my mother said. I never meant to kill her, Margarita, even though she hurt me so much in so many ways. I hadn't said one word. This is what the fuck else. Mom was standing in the kitchen in the house where I'd grown up, her hands in the sink. The kitchen had always been a comfort field place with her in it. It was a place where she'd set me on the butcher's block island to look at my various injuries, usually cuts and scrapes on my knees. I was hard on my knees. She would clean me with a cool cloth, apply a band-aid, and lots of kisses. Her kisses were magic and made my world happy and secure. My mom is a healer, not a killer. I couldn't see her in that way. I suppose that's why I hadn't wanted to face the truth, and I'd known all along, as I thought the day I'd found her on Norma's porch. One of my parents had made a terrible mistake. Why couldn't you tell me the truth? I panicked. When I didn't tell you the first thing, it became harder and harder to tell you. I didn't think anyone would understand. I'm going to have to take you in, Mom. I know, Missy. I'm ready. Well, does Pappy know? No. Well, that was a relief. One of my parents hadn't lied to me about the death of Norma Bates anyway. My mother sat in the back seat, not cuffed. Stephanie Rico wasn't dangerous to anyone, especially me. This happened because of her desire to protect me. I thought I'd cry about that later, but at the moment I had no tears. It was like I was too sad and disappointed to cry. Mom didn't talk, and I was okay with that. What was there to say? I thought about how she used to sing me to sleep, most often sang a rockabye baby, but in her own words. Rockabye Rita in the treetop, you're the best baby ever did drop. One of the sky came one day, my little angel down to play. Corny? Yes, but it was full of love and adornment. Man, I couldn't believe I remembered that. There was another verse, but it didn't come to mind. We were passing Cimarron Mountain when she finally spoke. Should I tell you what happened? Mom, I should tell you you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney, have him present during any questioning. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you. Do you understand those rights? Yes, Missy. Okay. Then tell me what happened if you want to. I went to Norma's to try to talk some sense into her. That was on Saturday afternoon. She wouldn't budge. If I didn't make a public statement that I had stole from the doctor's Francisco's office and that I hadn't lied about everything, even lied in court, then I was going to show you, she was going to show you and everybody else the letters and photos. What happened? Well, we were in an impasse. I wasn't about to do that, and I wasn't waving, and she was waving the photos around. I left very angry and didn't have a clue what to do. I honestly didn't think about killing her. I never thought about that in a serious way, even after all she did. If I was going to kill her, it would have been when she was trashing me in the community. But you know, I'm not a killer, Margarita. Yes, Mom, I know. So I went to talk to your father, who always had a better sense than me. He thought we should tell you, and I guess he was right. She took a breath and let out a long, shuddering sigh. I didn't want to add to your suffering. Your dad and I saw how you were still agonizing over the death of Kevin, and we didn't want to add to that burden. She was quiet for a few minutes, and so was I. Finally, she spoke. On Saturday night, Norma called about 8 o'clock and said she'd rethought her position and wanted to talk to me. I should come over for coffee. I was weary, but I went. There was no coffee made. She invited me in and said she was going to make it. She was standing at the sink, and the next minute she was attacking me, calling me a bitch, in other words, worse names. She lost it completely. I told her I decided to tell you the truth about everything, and I wasn't going to cave to her ridiculous demands. She couldn't shame me in front of the whole community. As long as I knew, you knew, I didn't care. Well, I was feeling badly for Pappy, but he knows who he is, and he had faith all along that the truth would not change the relationship you two have. People would talk, but so what? after a while they would move on to something else. Old scandals is not nearly as exciting as a new one. Now I know what a real catfight is. I've never fought like that with anyone. She kicked me and slapped me and gave me a black eye, and she started throwing things at me, and then she was coming at me and she was growling, Margarita. It was the only way I could describe it, and I grabbed a handiest thing from the counter and fend her off. She sucked in a breath but barely slowed. Her next statement was all at once with no breaks. It was a knife. I wasn't thinking about that. Didn't care what it was. I stabbed it into her, but all the time I was thinking was I got to get away from me. And I thought she would jump back, and instead she was coming at me again, and I couldn't believe I had done it. And there was, with all the blood going everywhere, and she was dead. She took a few breaths, calmed a little, and began to speak more slowly. I grabbed the letters and photos she laid out on the counter, and others, worse ones, she had hidden away. These are the ones I went back for. How did she get those personal things? I was told that Zeke's left a file with his attorney for safekeeping. I suppose he forgot the nature of some of these things. The attorney was supposed to get a bank box and organize it with all the personal papers. I guess he thought it was odd to have a client with connections in Terlingua, and unfortunately, he spoke with Norma's sister about it. One thing led to another, and she got her hands on it, and no one else ever meant for that to see it except Zeke and me. When did this happen? It was a few months after the mediation. So my biological father knows about me? Yes, Missy, he knows. He stayed away because Miguel took responsibility for you before you were born. Before Zeke settled down, he didn't want to interfere. He felt he had lost all rights to you, but he knew he wants to leave you some money when he dies. So you have a photo of this Zeke somebody? Zeke Pacheco. Yes, it's in my purse. You want to see it? Yes. She handed the photo over the seat, and I stuck it in my shirt pocket without looking. To see him, she said. I do. I'll look at it later when I'm not driving. I don't want to see Zeke for the first time with my mother looking on. I wasn't even 100% sure I wanted to see him at all. I would have to think about it. I thought one father was all a girl needed, especially when he was such a good one. Then I had the thought that I had already seen Zeke. He was the man in a crumpled, ripped-up photos with stars in his eyes. That was the man who had fathered me. Norma had that photo, and my mom was trying to take it away from her. It was my mother that had an affair with him, not Norma. Norma had only tried to use him against my family. I think killing is wrong, but I felt glad she was gone. Margaret, I hope one day you can understand that I was young and stupid 25 years ago, my mom said. I was older than you are now, but not nearly as responsible as you. I got pregnant by accident, but I hope you know I never regretted it. I wouldn't trade you for anything. I know that, Mom. You always treated me like I was planned and you'd been waiting on me. You weren't planned, but I saw your little face. I did feel as though I had been waiting for you. I knew you were exactly the right daughter for me. I don't believe God makes mistakes. Mom, what'd you do with the knife? I buried it out in the desert. I could show you if you need it. I'll tell the sheriff, I said, feeling no desire to see it. After a while she said, what will happen to me? Will I get the needle? No, Mom. What you described is self-defense. I think the district attorney and judge will consider it, and I better think that you look forward to in the beginning. But I don't think he'll go hard on you. I'm sorry, Margarita. So sorry. I know, Mom. I hope you know I love you no matter what. I love you too, she said, in a voice breaking with emotion. That night I stayed with Austin in a motel. My mother stayed in the county jail. It pained me, but there was nothing to be done about it until the judge had his say. Austin and I spent the first hour and a half crying on each other's arms. Then we watched old movies, ordered pizza, and laughed until we were sick. We finally exhausted ourselves and fell asleep together like little kids. I woke up once during the night with Austin's silky hair against my neck and realized that he was the brother I had chosen for myself. On the way home from Alpine, I stopped at a picnic area. I sat up on one of the tables and stared at the mountains for a long time. The shadows of fast-moving clouds were skirting over it, making constantly changing patterns of light and dark. Elephant Mountain is beautiful, with its valleys and ridges, similar to the Cimarron, but not as rugged. One deep canyon faced me, and I could see it full of green trees, but it was impossible to tell what kind from the distance between us. After a while, I got out the photograph of Zeke Pacheco at age 26 and stared at it. It was hard to grasp that this was my father, the photo of the same handsome man as the ripped-up one I found at the crime scene. I saw my resemblance in him in the coloring, golden skin, dark hair and eyes, but I didn't want to see anything else. I wanted to look like my pappy. Zeke had a wide, rugged face and a beautiful smile. I couldn't find anything wrong with him, and remembered that my father, the one I'd grown up with, said that he was a fine-looking man and a good one. I thought Zeke had nothing on my pappy, either in looks or goodness. I finally took the photo back in my pocket, got back in my Explorer, and I headed home. A few days later, Mom was freed. The district attorney declined to press charges, and after he heard from a variety of Terlingua residents about Norma's erratic and often violent behavior, everything he heard backed up Mom's story of self-defense. When she was standing before the judge, I looked over at her and remembered the second verse of Rockabye Rita. It went, "When the wind blows, you won't even cry. You'll know you're a gift to Daddy and I." I was smiling, and the judge was looking at me as if I'd lost my mind, but he did the right thing by my mother. He was going to walk away and be gone to Norma's with intention of settling the problems, not killing her. Mom had acted in good faith, typical of her, and Norma had acted in bad faith, also typical. My mom killed her in self-defense, no malice, afterthought, and in fact, it had been an accident. Norma ran forward with the intention of doing harm to my mother and ran into the knife. There was also extenuating circumstances in the form of blackmail and cruel harassment. Little Munch and Chapo Rodriguez were likely to serve time for conspiracy to commit murder, even though Mom had been the one who ended Norma's life. Conspiring to murder is a capital offense in the same category as actual murder and a first-degree felony, with a prison term of 5 to 99 years, same as first-degree murder. I thought that was the way it should be. Those two had done terrible things. My mother had made a terrible mistake. Jimmy Joe Blanks was in jail awaiting a hearing. His competency was yet to be proven in one way or another. Austin was healing and had returned to classes, but not to the stable jobs. The university offered him a position as an intern as a music professor, a job for which he was perfectly suited. It didn't pay much, but neither did the other one. Among other responsibilities, he would work with the choir. My friend would have a long journey back to the mental and physical health, one that included an upcoming heart operation, but he had an indomitable spirit as big as the state of Texas. Whenever I look into those bright green eyes, I know that he is a hero, not me. Well said, big old partner. With a sigh of relief, that's done. He rubbed his huge hands against the blue jean thighs. He was sweating profusely and streaks of dirt on his face and some of his hair. He looked like a giant-sized boy that had been playing in the dirt all day. We just buried Kevin's bloody clothes under a sprawling cottonwood tree in the backyard. I stuck a note in the pocket of the shirt, telling Kevin I would never have said the awful words if I'd known they were going to be my last. I tried to express my great love for him, and I said how much I missed him and how I would never forget him. I knew Kevin wouldn't see it, but I needed to write it. And then what if somehow he could see it? Nothing in this world could have ruled out in reality. Well, I don't understand much, or in some cases anything. At least last minute, I wanted to hold back the Stetson. Barney studied me, and for a long time, finally he said, "It's dented, dirty, and had drops of blood. Put it in the hole, Ricos." I knew he was right. I held it for a while, and then I put it with the other things. He covered them up for me, and we marked the spot with colorful stones I'd gathered from the base of the Cimarron Mountain. For a while, Barney and I sat in a companionable silence on the front porch, drinking iced tea and watching the colors of the sunset and sky on the mountains. For a few minutes, Cimarron looked like fiery red, purple, then golden, and the day began to fade. "You never told me why Roger Lockley dislikes you so much." "Well, for one thing, I beat him at pool." "Oh, tell me the truth. That's not the reason." "No, I suppose it ain't." "Come on, give it up. I'll have to get rough with you." He laughed at that. "Well, I did a stupid thing. I had a date with a divorced woman. This was before I met Julia. And I said some things about her to Lockley when we were drinking beer and playing pool. They weren't very complimentary things, like she was a sleazy skank and, guy talk. She lived in Alpine, so how would I have known she was old man Lockley's daughter?" "Oh, yeah. I was new to the sheriff's office then, and he tried to get me fired. It must irritate the crap out of you that you're down here now." "Oh, no shit, Batgirl." We were quiet for a long time. "I had a brother," announced Barney suddenly. "Oh, yeah? Is he as big as you?" "Nah, he's a little guy, only 6'4". "What happened? He didn't get enough to eat when he was growing up? Or did you hog all the food?" "Nah, he's better looking than I am, and he's single." "Your point?" "My point is, you're single, and he's single, and I think you would like each other." "Oh, please don't do this. Let me find my own man." "Are you even looking?" "No. Not like you think I should. Probably the right man will cross my path, and I'll know it when the time comes." He crossed his amazing blue eyes at me. "Don't do that," I said. "You look positively flicked." He winked. "I'm lost as a goose in a snowstorm."